We are here today to announce the arrest of Paul Krueger on charges of theft by deception and other offenses related to a scheme through which he deceived multiple victims into believing that he was a successful record producer and investor and manipulated them into investing thousands of dollars with him. And the evidence shows that he took that money, did not invest it, and used it to fuel his gambling habit. I am here right now with Assistant DA Bob Sander, who is the head of our Economic Crime Unit, and Chief Oscar Vance. And in the back of the room is Detective Joe Kelly from the Souderton Police. Chief Quinn was not able to be with us today. The background of this case began on October 16th of last year when Detective Kelly of the Souderton Police received a complaint from the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and that is a federal organization that routinely refers matters for investigation to local police. Detective Kelly advises that he has received, over the past 5 years at least, many complaints from that center, and that has actually generated a number of cases both here in the county and in other areas. The complaint came from a woman who claimed that she had met this man, Paul Krueger, on the internet on a website that was entitled MillionaireMatch.com. The address that Mr. Krueger provided to her was a Souderton address, and the victim explained to Detective Kelly that she had met this man over the internet. They corresponded via email, they spoke on the phone, and in fact they had met in Atlantic City. According to the victim, Mr. Krueger told her that he was a successful record producer. He worked in the music industry for over 20 years, that he had been nominated for Grammy Awards and had other successes in that industry. And he reported that he was starting a business where he would produce DVDs and CDs and other communications media, and he was looking for investors in his company. In an effort to convince her to make investments, he actually provided her with reports of stock performance to show, or to try to show her, that he was a successful investor and that this would be a risk worth taking. And over a period of time, the victim invested $10,000 with him. After a certain period of time, he simply stopped returning her phone calls and never repaid anything on that investment. That then prompted her to make this report to the Internet Crime Tip Line. Around the same time that Detective Kelly received that complaint, he was contacted by a private investigator from Texas investigating the background of a man named Paul Krueger. This was completely separate from the tip line report, but when this investigator contacted the detective, he told the detective that there was a woman who had met this man on MillionaireMatch.com, and she wanted to investigate his background. And so with some of that information, Detective Kelly learned that this woman also had met Mr. Krueger on MillionaireMatch.com. They had met in Atlantic City, and that she was very fearful of him, and that's why she was doing this background investigation. That was the beginning of the investigation, which then prompted Detective Kelly to delve further, look at Mr. Krueger's bank accounts, and through that information and information provided by the initial victim, in total, Detective Kelly identified 13 victims who lost over $100,000 in total by making these false investments with Mr. Krueger. 5 of the victims were people that the original victim had referred to him to make investments, and then there were 7 others, all women, that he met on MillionaireMatch.com, which I'll put up here on the screen so you can see the website that we're talking about. This over here is the homepage of MillionaireMatch.com. This is the website that Mr. Krueger used to contact his victims, and on that website he posted with the screen name, "I am ready, are you, 2007. Once Detective Kelly concluded that it was appropriate to file charges, criminal complaint was filed on May 20th, and we began searching for Mr. Krueger. Because we had information that he spent a good deal of time in Atlantic City, we started to search down at the casinos. Yesterday, Detective Kelly went down to the casinos and started to look in some of the places that we heard that this defendant might potentially be hanging out. And it was his player's card. Mr. Krueger had a player's card at Harrah's Casino, and it was Harrah's security that was able to alert us to the fact that Not only was he down there in the casino, he had just moments before tried to get a comped meal at lunch. That then led the investigators to go to the restaurant, and they found him lingering over a soda. He had finished his lunch and was about to leave, and had actually just lingered a little bit longer, which ultimately caused him to be discovered by the police. Mr. Krueger is currently in the custody of the Atlantic County Correctional Facility. He was charged by the New Jersey State Police as a fugitive. I don't have information on the specific hearing date and time, but we would expect that an extradition hearing will be held next week at some point, and I will update you on that as we get information. Yesterday, the detectives learned that Mr. Krueger is actually homeless, and the residence in Souderton belonged to his ex-wife. He told them that he had been living on the streets. A few thank yous that we want to make sure to share. The Pennsylvania Securities Commission was a great help to us in this investigation. Certainly Harris Security was a tremendous help yesterday in locating him. The New Jersey State Police and the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office have all been very helpful to us in both locating Mr. Krueger and now making sure that he will be extradited back to Pennsylvania shortly. With that, I'll take any questions.